Everybody's got the fever. This is something we all know. Fever isn't such a new thing. Fever started long ago.
Well, lip syncing to my own voice. Hello and good evening. This is Lenny Godfrey, but this is Lenny Godfrey on video with Lenny Godfrey, straight, no chaser. And it is today, Tuesday, September 20th at 7 p.m. in 2025. And I decided that I would do this podcast uh, by myself, kind of. Um, I've invited some people to come, and if they come in, that'll be great. If not, I had a couple of things to say. First of all, I want to thank you all for always being there when we started this podcast in 2020. And then I had to take a pause. And that's what I want to kind of explain a little bit. There are reasons that we do more than one thing in this business, and sometimes it has to do with the finances and craft and talent. And I elected to become a little bit more administratively strong in my career. I had sat on boards a lot, and I was offered the opportunity to take the leadership position in an organization called the League of Professional Theater Women. And I did that in 2023. I thought that it was going to be possible for me to continue my podcast and also to do the leadership duties. But it became more and more difficult. It was a challenging and is still a challenging job. I will be coming to the end of my commitment to the league December 31st of 2025. And I've decided, as I'm doing that, to integrate back into the life that I had before. Those of you who know me as a performer, as well as starting this podcast and interviewing and really talking about, I think, uh, items and subjects that concern us, bringing about history of performers that we really need to have some archival background on. And then I wanted to open this up, and I'm hoping that they will come in, but I don't know if they will, to people who have any questions about what it is that we can do in the arts to sustain ourselves, to make this continual historical journey as strong as it has been in the past and even stronger in the future. And a lot of ways to do that individually and also when we work for corporations, for wonderful acting companies, for wonderful directors and producers. We may find that there may be challenges. And sometimes this is the conversation that I'd like to have on this podcast. Not specifically have I thought about dealing with people that you know every single day, all the very familiar names, because you will be able to hear what they have to say when they are interviewed by people who are far more visible than I am. But I wanted to be able to talk to the people who every day get there, go to work. Uh, they do it unconditionally. They don't think about getting any recognition for it, and ask them what it is that drives them, what drives all of us as far as this wonderful, wonderful world of the arts that we're in. We are we have calling. I think that's what it is, and also I have to think that at the same time it is a gift of craft from God, from your higher power, whichever whatever you call it, that calls us to do this, and it calls us to do it until we're not here anymore. And with that being said, it's been a year, a very difficult year of passing of people who we've loved a great deal and for a long time. You know, I entered into this business a little while ago in the other century, and it was different. It wasn't filled with the digital um, advantages that we have now, but it also there were different kinds of welcomings that we had. We, the younger people who, when we entered in the business, we were fortunate enough to take our step into the world right before us. that had really set all the goals for us, that had opened the doors for us. And those people were still here. And they told wonderful stories. And we sat and we listened to them. And that was a wonderful, wonderful gift. I don't think the next generation benefited from that as much. We had a lot more that we wanted to do, a lot of places that we wanted to go. And so, therefore, we decided we wanted to kind of mm, uh, do something for ourselves, be there for ourselves. And that was it. It was good for us, but it wasn't necessarily good for the next generation. Um, and then they were inundated with the digital world. So the personable contact that we could have with them didn't quite happen. But I'll get back to this phase today. I hope ends a phase of of passings that were really rapid and were really devastating as we plowed through to keep ourselves, uh, I think, relevant and to keep the dreams alive for those people who have passed in the last year. It's an important thing. Excuse me as I disconnect anything that's going to disturb us at this point because of the simple fact that this being my first podcast coming back, I still didn't remember to take the phone off the hook. So what is it? This is a lie. This is a lie. So as we think about them and call their names, I implore you as you listen to this. This is live, and we do have some guests coming in. Thank you, but I know that they're listening, and if they have something that they want to say, they'll put it in the chat, and they'll let me know. But it's one of those things where we have to learn to move forward, to take all of the lessons and the advice and information that they gave us, utilize it, keep them, in our thoughts, on our lips all the time. Um, I have had wonderful friends in the last couple of years really pass on. I've had friends have their dearest relatives pass on, and we have to move on. We move forward with it, and that's an important thing. One of the things that I guess you can tell, I love to talk, and as I would interview people and I listen to them, I was so happy to be gifted with that opportunity to listen to people talk about their different kinds of experiences. And I thought a lot of the times, do I come close to any of that? And I think one of the things that I'm going to do, and this is what it is, this particular hour or almost hour, it may be a half hour, we'll see how it goes, um, to let you know what I want to do and how I want to continue to do this, the passion of this. In the time that I started in 1919, oh my goodness, 2025 and 20. Um, there were very little people doing this, coming on screen, especially that mostly it was audio, and now technology has allowed us to do it a little bit more. And I am going to try to do something that I think benefits all of us by sticking to the arts, but holding conversations, I think, with people who can again inform us with some of the things that we may need answers to. I've spoken to as president of this organization, and then I should say that I am the founder and artistic director of Essence of Acting, which is an ensemble group that is 10 years old. So my experience with them started in 2015 with a play that first was given to me to be second, but turned out first, which was uh, Charles White's play and Unentitled. And then it was followed by Celeste Bedford Walker's Greenwood, An American Dream Destroyed. We have since then done a lot of different plays, done readings of them, sections of them. We've done salons. And recently, like the loss of my dear friend, who we celebrate his life, and not his passing, but his life. And his birthday is in January, and we'll celebrate his life then, but acknowledging his passing a year ago in this time period was Ken Page. And recently, one friend that I knew since I was 19 years old, that has passed, was a founding member of the Essence of Acting, is Brenda Roberta Thomas Denmark. That's a lot in my mouth because I didn't know her as Roberta, but we've had a moment with that. A brilliant person, um, as was Page, as was Maurice Hines, as was Adrian Bailey, and if I start Sandra, Sandra Reese Phillips, as I start those names, it does come to me the pang of missing them. You have Kevin Jones, who was a magnificent in fashion. We have to keep them alive by making sure the logo that I have for Essence of Acting was created by Kevin. The life of Essence of Acting goes on with, we're working with writers now, with Celeste, with Philip Kaplan, with Ellen Clarkson, who is a member of the League. These things we keep on doing so that we have the power, the archival power to pass on to younger people. And that is what I'm trying to get from all of those people who have left us, but the gift that they left. And that's what's important. What am I doing in the future here? Well, I have now committed myself to doing this podcast again on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. every Wednesday. And I am hoping to recruit some writers to next week. One or two of them may be listening now or may be seeing this in a recording. And I'm hoping that we're working with them and that they'll come on and they'll talk about their work and where they are now and the change in the industry and how that has changed how they write, how they work, and the whole way in which we regard the business. But I've made that commitment. It will be through November, and then I take my usual break. But this time, when I come back, I will be back in January and I will have a full season all the way until it's almost time for the summer, because this is something that I think that is very, very important. Now, it may not be an hour all the time. It may be a half hour. I know that we are working harder. We are busier than ever. And sometimes you will be able to spend that whole hour and have the time. Sometimes I'll shorten it for a half hour so that you can see it or hear it from the beginning and end. And then that is a concept, seeing and hearing. Well, you're seeing me for the first time for the entire video. Usually you see me in the afterthoughts, after show afterthoughts. But this is the entire thing. And I remember doing a couple of these and my guests saying, oh, Lynnie, you should do it like this the whole time. And so we will. So this will be posted on YouTube, on the channel, the LYNNIE Godfrey channel. It will also, if I can't get the whole thing posted, I will always do a short after show, the thoughts after thoughts, and then on that there will be a link so that you can always go to YouTube or Spreaker, and I'll give you some information about that. That is where all of the 125 episodes that I've done over the years, they sit there because Blog Talk .radio no longer exists. This is its sister station, and so I've chosen to do the podcast here on Zoom and then post it there and post it on YouTube, and so therefore I will give you the link to Spreaker, tomorrow you'll see it, as well as the link to this on YouTube. So you'll be able to, those of you who have not had an opportunity to listen to all of this or look at all of this, we'll do it at your leisure. But yes, I am back here. I am happy to be back in front of the screen. I am happy to be doing the things that I love doing. And now I need to do a shameless plug. And I'm going to do it about October the 13th, which is Columbus Day, and it's in Lehigh Valley, in Pennsylvania. Those of you who are in this area, I want you to look on my website, and I want you to see that I am going to participate in a book festival on October 13th at 4 o'clock. It's a Monday, and it's going to be about selling my book. Lynnie Godfrey has a book. You'll be able to see all the title of it, uh, and sharing thoughts while I'm seeking the spotlight is the name. Lynnie Godfrey sharing thoughts while seeking the spotlight. And in it, I think if you're interested in buying it, you will find that I recall some of my journey, and hopefully that journey helps some other people during their journey. I hope to reach out to people who are younger than I am, who are beginning their careers, who are facing challenges that I didn't face when I first came here, because it's a different business. I hope also to reach out to adults who are in my age group and to reassure them that this is a place of artistry. This is a place where we can create, and that there are places that you can go, safe places, to make this a safe place, which is very, very important to me. It's important that this is a safe place, and that um, we come here to seek knowledge, to ask questions, to listen to and learn as well, and to comment, to provide information. Because even though the guests I have and we don't know everything, and we might be talking about a subject that you may know a little bit more than we do, or may know another kind of facet of it. And we'd appreciate it you come in as gracefully as you can, and give us your side of the opinion of what is going on. So that's what's very important. Now I'll talk a little bit more about what I'm going to do on Columbus Day, and that's because it's different. I always like to combine the things that I do. If I could do my podcast on that Monday and let you see the people coming into this wonderful bookstore. It's a whole festival. It's a week of a festival, but this particular day starts it off at 4 p.m. in Easton, Pennsylvania. Then I would say to you, I would want to be able to present that to you, to have you follow me, as many people do now, with their videos as we do this book. I think, and I have to tell you, Melba Tolliver is the host. As we do this book journey, both my book and her book, because she has a book also. As you see me, I'm looking down because I'm determined to uh, tell you exactly where this is, so that you don't have to look so much for it. It is it's the Easton Book Festival, uh, and it is Monday, October the 13th, from 4 to 5 at Book and Puppet Company. And that's at 161 Northampton Street in downtown Easton. So I know those of you who are in Allentown, and some people who are in Bethlehem think that Easton is a long ways, but it's about 11 minutes. And so if I'm not doing the jazz concert in Allentown Symphony Hall, or if I've not done something in Bethlehem at Arts Quest, this is another place that you can see me, and hopefully see people who've been at all of those concerts. So, I know New York, that, if you're in New York and you're saying, well, what are we going to do? Well, I was just there at Christmas time. And am I thinking about doing something for Christmas? Yes, I am. But I don't know what it's going to be yet, because there's a lot of things ahead of me. But now that I've done that, and it's important that I say it's Lenny Godfrey, sharing lessons learned while seeking the spotlight. Now, that is the title of my book, and the title of Melba's book is Accidental Anchorwoman. And Melba Tolliver, who usually opens my seasons for me, but we're waiting to do something together on the 13th. Um, it was one of the premier anchor women for ABC, and I've learned so much for being associated with her, and I'm honored to be in her company as she hosts my book signing and selling that day, and hopefully people will also buy her book, which tells her story. So that's one of the things that I am accomplishing and going through. Of course, you see me on this podcast. I have decided to work harder than usual on some other projects that I've started, and that I can't tell you all about right now, but they are going on, and that's very important that they are. Um, and That's one of the things that I want to talk to some of the writers about, because my concern is that the reason why I started Essence of Acting was because I just didn't think that there was material out there that I was becoming interested in. I was becoming jaded because the roles just seemed to be the same uh, that were being offered. And I thought no one was writing it, but I was very wrong. There are wonderful, wonderful writers here who've been writing a long time, and we have to give them an avenue and a voice so that their work can be heard. The characters that they're creating are three-dimensional. They're not caricatures or cartoon-like, and they are really delving into some subjects that we haven't seen before. There will always be those subjects that are there. Yes, we have a history, and not everyone in our society that we live in is as influential as they could be. Some people are on a lot of different economic levels, and those things are represented. But what we're trying to do is equalize those images all the way around. Is that if you see someone who is struggling a little bit economically, you also see people who have had some other opportunities that have allowed them to be on another economic base. And those stories are just as important because they inspire us to keep on going, because that could be your story. If you don't see it in front of you, it's hard to imagine. It's hard to imagine cultures that you don't know. It's hard to imagine that people who you trusted may not be the same kind of people you think they are. But that's a whole nother conversation, as I found out that it's an interesting world because people want to believe what they want to believe, and they want to believe people are who they perceive them to be. And if they've done something different in their behavior pattern, it's very hard for them to digest that. But it's not hard for me to understand that. I may not agree with it, but we all have to start understanding one another a little bit more. So that is one of the things. I've kind of been talking nonstop here for what, 23 minutes? That's a long time for a singer, to be talking and not to sing anything. But it's not a long time for an actor. So I guess I'm okay with that. Um, One of the things that I also wanted to make sure that I uh, uh, talked about uh, was there is going to be, I'm going to participate. As you can see, I'm still a little bit administratively bound. There's an organization called TRU, TRU, and, and Babos is the host of it. And on Friday, October the 10th, I'm going to be on a panel with Bob, with Lauren Yaga, who has created an organization in Connecticut. She is a member of the league, but she used to be on our board. But there are some members who've created something in Connecticut that's really quite fine that they'll talk about. And Shellen Lubin, who is also the leader of the women's organization, and Cynthia Strauss, who is also on my board. And we will be talking about the relevancy of organizations like that that are women owned. And, like anything that's something only, how relevant is it today? And so that will become not only something that I will be the tip of the iceberg next week, and I'll put the link on if you want to come and join in on that webinar. It is on every Friday. Bob has it. He's been doing it for 200 and some weeks in a row since the pandemic. But that the kind of discussion is what we have. And I think that will be interesting. And those are the depths that I'd like to go in. But I don't want it to distract from the growth of craft that I was on a journey with and took a detour a little bit. Not one that I am sorry about at all. I had the time of life learning about people, some wonderful, absolutely fabulous, and some not so wonderful. But you survive because, like my mother used to say, it takes all kinds to make a world. So therefore, uh, we are fortunate to be here, and fortunate to be in an craft in a world of artistry that should be leading the society as to where we should go. And when we don't have that role, we need to check ourselves. We need to not follow, but we need to lead. We are the ones who in school were the ones who were always studying and all, off in the corner when everybody else was having a lot of fun learning how to do a little smoking, a little this and a little that. And we were paying attention to the arts because that was the organization that accepted us, along with, for me, along with the organization of student government and all of those things. So we chose this because it was different, because it is not the regular business corporate world, and we need to act like it. And I call on you because that's an important part, I think, of who we need to be, and what we need to look forward to, and how we need to grow. Let us know that the arts is supposed to be neutral, that we find ways to find things that we like and do not like, and put it on film, on the stage, in visual arts, and express it in a neutral way that takes us further, but does not take sides. Yeah, we have to stand up for some things, but you do that in your personal life. But the arts should be a place where we come and we create. Now, if anyone disagrees with me, I welcome you to come and say something, to me, your point of view and anything like that in the next few episodes that will come in the coming weeks, hopefully if you get through this. But I can tell you, we are now at 28 minutes, and I'm probably only going to go to 30 minutes today because unless our attendees, and we do have a few, well, thank you for coming, everyone, unless they have something to say or if they're just here to listen, I will ask them if they have something and a question, they should raise their hand and let me know. Put it in the chat if you have something that you want to. Otherwise, oh, there is a hand that's raised, and I am going to allow this attendee to speak. Hold on, there you go. All right. Yes, there you are, allowing you to speak. I hope you can. Is it working? Can you
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much for tonight's podcast. So glad to be here, and so excited to always get your point of view. I am curious to know what your thoughts are. I know you're a stage actor, but you've also performed on film and TV, and I'm very curious to know what you think about the recent statement made by SAG-AFTRA regarding a synthetic person
Mm.
seeking representation. And given, all that we fought for during the last strike and the things we won, the things we are still striving for, what do you think is going to be the trajectory for actors in this industry if synthetics can seek representation? Because I know we already have music artists doing it and digital companies creating synthetic music artists. that are performing well. But I'm curious to get your thoughts on what you think the trajectory is going to be for actors. Thank you.
Well, I thank you, thank you. That's a wonderful question, and you can identify yourself, please, if you want to.
Oh,
I
I'm
will
sorry. I'm,
identify.
I'm Alicia.
Yes,
Alicia.
thank you. Uh, a wonderful question, and I will answer it by saying that I am a dinosaur. I am a dinosaur from way back. Um, the thought of of being replaced by something that, believe me, the the mechanics, the digital technology that has been created, I think is absolutely wonderful for some facets of our society. But the
Mhm,
arts should remain, I think, uh, uh, a part of a unique and isolated part of our society that belongs to those of us who have learned and have studied very hard. I don't want to sound like I'm not positive about digital technology because I am. I have so many gadgets; it's unbelievable. And Alicia, Alicia, who is associate and works with me, will know I'm always pulling something out. But when it comes to the arts, when it comes to what I believe deep down inside, it is a humanistic quality that we all have, that I think cannot be replicated by something synthetic. And I think we have to be very careful about presenting this because what we are presenting also to our children. And our children then will need to be very clarified about what is real and what is not real and their whole qualities about what it is. So it troubles me. Oh, if you want to know how I feel about it, it troubles me.
mhm,
I think the advancements are absolutely wonderful, but so many times we have been through advancements that these wonderful, brilliant people create, but then they can't control it. Then it gets out of hand. Your house title and mortgage gets taken away from somebody. Your identification gets breached. When those things were first presented to us, they were presented to us as gifts and say, this is going to be easier. All you have to do is press a button and it's going to be great. But fine. But what they don't do is they don't create the fail-safe that then allows us to not be the victims of these, schemes and everything else, and of these things that create values that we may not want to pass on to our generations. So that's where I think about that. Did I come close, Alicia, to what you were saying?
Well, I think that is the consensus. Many do think we have advanced in large measure in technologies that can benefit society. I guess my concern, and you did echo this, is whether or not it will benefit the artists. Because if something synthetic can do my job, then where will I find work? And granted, live theater is still here, ladies and gentlemen. But
Yes,
but
it is.
a
Yes, it
lot
is.
of actors do aspire to being on film and TV, and I think that's going to be a real concern moving forward.
But what's frightening is, I see with the passing of a wonderful actor, Robert Redford, and I see on posts things that I know are not real about a service that didn't
Hmm.
happen. I said,
Hmm.
this is not real. You all
Hmm.
have AI these people in here. This photograph doesn't even resemble who he is. I mean, you have not done that. I mean, so we have to be, first of all, diligent in knowing that we cannot believe now no longer. What they say, believe half of what you see. You can't even believe half of what you see. None of what you hear. No, I mean, you cannot. You have to, everything you have to say, if you want these people to be here, it has to be live. I think then that the actual live theater will become a very valuable thing.
Hmm.
People
Hmm.
will then, let's hope that it goes in that direction, that people will then say, this is not archaic, this is, it's not classic, it is the beginnings and origins of a craft that we are sustaining because it is in itself. Now, if you categorize these synthetic actors as synthetic actors, and that becomes an area of the arts, and that this is a synthetic presentation and we know what it is, I don't have any problem if you identify yourself. But don't try to fool me into thinking that they are who we are and they are representing our emotions and our values, because that is difficult for me to accept. I don't accept it in a lot of categories, and I've been not vocal about it, but we have to be very careful when we separate ourselves in groups and let us identify specifically who we are, um, and what our foundations are, and what our beliefs are. And if you go for a role that is outside of your culture, let us know that that is outside of your culture, and let us see if we are satisfied with that. If that's something, that we want to accept. In many cases in the past, it's not been something that the audiences have been satisfied with. We like foundational, authentic, cultural people representing foundational, authentic, cultural people, and and those values that we hold to be truth to ourselves are not necessarily shared with someone who is not in our culture. I could tell you right now, since if I were doing something in a project and uh, a synthetic character was created to do it opposite me, and we were talking about a culturally rich scene, like one where you're at the dinner table and the things that you talk about at the dinner table, something might be written that I think is not appropriate. I have the foundational background to, you know, to
Evaluate
comment
that.
on that.
Yeah.
But does a synthetic character? No, no, there's no foundation there. So they're going to then act upon something that may be inaccurate. And accuracy is a very important thing in our arts, to be represented accurately. Because especially in film, which never goes away, our theater sometimes is filmed, and that's wonderful. But film and television do not go away. They get lost sometimes, but then they can get found. And
Right.
what is there is, unfortunately, it is, when it's only one interpretation of it, that's the only thing that generations really have to go by. Oh, is that how they acted? No, that's not how we acted. That's how we were represented. And
Precisely.
so that becomes a concern. It is a concern. It is a concern. And I'm sad if it's interpreted as being difficult. That I am one who believes in accuracy, but I don't think anybody else wants their culture to be inaccurately represented. So, recently I was asked to participate in a ceremony where I found that I was racially, and I will say I was racially offended. And I was asked, like, well, can't you just, kind of, it's not that important. It's very important. Everybody's principles is important. And I would never have asked anybody else to do that. And it seems what happens, especially with marginalized, um, I would say, Black Americans, foundational, authentic Black Americans, is that we are expected to excuse and forgive very quickly when no one does it for us. And that's not a racist thing that I'm saying. It is an observation that I think we need to recognize and to speak on in a very genteel way, gracious way, but say, no, no, no. My values are as strong as your values. My history goes back even further than yours. And I'm very proud of it. And I'm proud of it whether I descend from a slave or whether I don't descend from a slave. That you will not create a divisiveness now for those of us to have yet another group where we descend from slaves, where we don't descend from slaves, where all of this becomes a very interesting kind of dichotomy, that we now have another divisiveness. That's we need to be proud to be the descendants of people who were kidnapped and grabbed and raped of everything that they had, and created a culture that allows me to be articulate with you here today.
Mm-hmm.
And whether we descended from them or we were adjacent to them, it doesn't really matter. That we should not, that should not be something. I'm not seeking it. People say, well, Lenny, do you want to seek? No, I don't. I don't want to seek it. I want you to know that I'm proud to be a descendant of those people who have created a culture that is like no other culture in this world. Oh, well, see, I've gone on a tangent. Don't let me go on a tangent.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Well, my goodness. I don't know if we have any other questions, but if any other observances from anyone else that has been been in the audience here. I guess you all are listening. I usually you hear me ask the questions, and I listen to the interviewee uh, expound their opinions. I try not to um, lead uh, the person that he is here in any way so that they're going in a direction that I favor. I try to be as neutral as I possibly can and allow them to speak their truth as they see it. And so I guess tonight I was just speaking my truth as I see it. Uh, and if there's no one else who wants to say anything, then I'm going to probably give you my final thoughts about doing a podcast. Well, I can't say now without anyone because Alicia, thank you very much for that question. I think one of the things I'd like to ask maybe you, Alicia, because you are comfortable. No one else has asked the permission to talk, but you are comfortable uh, being a young person in this business, having had a career prior, and coming into this business of the arts. Uh, how do you feel about your welcoming? Do you feel that there are enough avenues for you as a young woman of authentic Black American woman who is entering this? Do you have enough support? Is there something that you feel that you would like to see that would happen for you? Can you answer me that question?
I think that short of going back to school and spitting out lots of money for another degree, which is just not going to happen, I don't see that there are enough avenues for development. So having come from one industry into this one, obviously, it was a blessing because being out of work, I started doing background work and that paid a lot of bills and I met a lot of amazing people. But then once you actually start working in the industry, performing roles on stage, on film and TV and what have you. You want to learn more. You become hungry to understand the craft better, of course, and to understand the industry. The
Mhm.
courses that I've come across that I've been able to take, whether they were webinars, seminars, series, and what have you, they were not structured in the way that you would expect coming from an academic background. So the kind of training that I have received, um, has not been what I expected. Has it been helpful? Absolutely. Would I have liked for it to have been a little bit different given my background? Sure. So having those kinds of structured opportunities, you basically have to audition and enter into like a conservatory or some other kind of year-long study to really get the full of that. And then even in academia, the programs aren't always structured the way that you expect. So in that regard, it hasn't been quite what I thought I needed. Um,
Now
but
tell
then
me what you
I
thought. Tell me what you thought you needed. Tell me what do you think you need? What do you think you need? Tell me.
it's like it's the thing that happens when people they land a role and they do a decent job and they're really excited at the response that they get from the audience. And some people run with that, and I respect that. But my background, my personality thinks, okay, well, if this is done well, how can I make it better? And so you automatically start thinking, well, maybe I need to actually study this and really learn the craft. If this was done well, there's an opportunity to grow here. And that's kind of been the way I was always trained. You didn't just jump into something, think you did well, and then all of a sudden you're the greatest thing in the world. No, you had an experience, it was positive, and then how do you build on that so that you are laying the kind of foundation that will support better and even more improved performances in the future. And so I've sought out counsel, I've sought teachers, I've sought mentors, and I've taken classes. I've done the get up early on a Saturday morning and make sure I'm in Manhattan for a workshop and things of that nature. And they have all been very beneficial. Just again, not quite structured the way I expected, but this is an artist's medium. I don't think it's supposed to be structured the way I was expected. That's part of being an artist, being creative and able to respond in different situations. But learning about human nature and our experience as humanity has been a huge part of my development. And so, as far as what I think could be, or I wish had been done better, um, just maybe a little bit more understanding before I found myself in this situation. And I was blessed, though, I will say a good friend of my sister's, he sat down with a friend of his who was a working actor shortly after I started to really get exposed to this industry. And she spent 20 minutes with me on the phone explaining to me all the different pathways toward employment and how she would find work, how she got into SAG, how she got into Actors Equity. And that was the first time anyone who did not know me and had nothing to had no obligation to me whatsoever did something of that nature. Because I take the time that I spend with people very seriously, and I take the time people spend with me very seriously. And so I wanted to make certain that I did not waste her counsel. Um, and so I've put as much of what I learned in those 20 minutes from her into practice, coupled with what academia gives us, which is learning how to learn and just moving forward as expeditiously as possible throughout the course of my career. But I've said this to you, and you've said things to us in meetings before as well. There is no one set pathway to employment when you're in the entertainment industry. That's just the bottom line. And there are so many different roads, so many different ways that you can find yourself. And the thing that I find interesting is the more you do, the better you become, which is in any career. And then the better you become, the more attention you get from the people you were trying to get the attention of before you were, good enough to get their attention, which is it's kind of funny, I'm sure, but that's just the way of the world, I guess.
Well, it's very interesting for you to say that because I think that there was a little bit more mentoring happening when I first came into the business. I will say now one of the names that I dropped earlier today was Sandra Reese Phillips, and I remember coming out of college in May, and I think it was probably September. That a couple of months, I had the privilege of auditioning for a program in a Moss Theater. And in the audition process, you're a young girl. I'd been singing for a very long time, and then studying strongly the acting, which I think some singers do and some singers don't. Some singers are. Let me be very specific because I don't want to sound condescending. Singers are interested in the voice and the musicality of it, the melodiousness of it, uh, the technique of creating those tones and that is what a singer really when one studies, that's it. The combining that with those ingredients within acting, which is discovering the tones, finding the shadows. If you do one and not the other, you do have a strength and a weakness. If you study both with such zeal, then you have an advantage, because the song is not just hitting the notes. It is not just taking the breaths or having the diaphragm doing where it is or having the accuracy of standing or the diet or the this, that it is also interpreting what the composer and the lyricist really worked hard at. And therefore, it becomes almost like a monologue. So I had that advantage of having those two things work for me as a student and now then a professional. And in I walk into an audition room, and there sits really lovely ladies. Some would be auditioning for the same role, some not. And one woman who was, relatively curious because she hadn't seen me before, because I was a newie, came over and she said, "No, well, hello, darling, how are you?" And she said, "No, what you want to sing, huh?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Well, what are your songs you're singing?" And it immediately, Miss Sandra Reese Phyllis got a cough. I'm like, "Oh, darling, come here for me. Come here. You got any lozenges? You got it." And took me away from this person. And in a very low voice said, "Don't you ever tell anybody what you're singing. You tell them you're singing a song. That's what you're singing." It is the advice that I remember to this very day.
Mm.
And I, I, I don't think that we've done that enough to the next generation. Is to because these are things that you can't learn in the classroom. You got to learn. You got to be there. You got to be there. Her passing. I had her on my podcast before, a little bit a year before she passed, and I remember her talking about wanting her story told. And our voices are different. We do different kinds of women. I mean, she was absolutely the most curvaceous, beautiful woman when she was younger, and then she became more full figured, but always sensual. But she would say to me, I said, "What about your story?" She said, "Well, somebody could do it. You could do it, Lenny." And my heart sank because I thought the responsibility of representing such a wonderful woman and all of her gifts would be something. But I said, "Yes, we'll talk about it." Of course, we never got a chance to talk about it. But I will never forget her impact on me as a young woman. I carry that to this day. And I see it to this day. If someone tries to manipulate somebody young that's in the business, I don't get a cough, but I find a way to try to navigate them away from that person because, it is what happens. It doesn't happen as often now because now the auditions are not as live. And
So
so
you
you
think she
don't really
coughed on
get,
purpose in your face?
say it again.
Are you saying she coughed deliberately in
And
your?
then she started coughing. She started coughing, just coughing, because I was across the room from
Oh, I
her.
see. I
And
see.
and then she made an excuse. "Do you have any?" Because she saw me take a lozenge,
Oh, I see.
because I was, So she said, "You got one of those lozenges? Come here, girls. Come here, darling. Come here, darling." She didn't need a lozenge. She didn't need anything. Both of us got in the show, and she was absolutely brilliant.
Wow.
But she didn't need anything. She was getting me away from that person and teaching me a lesson that I practice to this very day. And that's, it's something that it's a lifelong lesson. And I hope to do that to somebody. I hope to pass that on. And I hope those who are listening or will listen to this will understand that that's one of the things that all of this is about, to pass it on, to pass some of the lessons, some of the stories, that we have, to go back and talk to some of those people who I haven't talked to in 2 or 3 years to find out where they are and how they're surviving and sustaining all this. So it's um, I, so when you say some of that is not happening, I'm saddened by it because I know that there was an exodus that we made. We all, we went to Broadway and then we went out to LA and we left a lot of you all to your own devices. And some of those devices were nothing but computers. And it shows sometimes in how our relationships are distant. But we try to build those bridges now. And we have time to do that, I think. But I'm not surprised by what you say, and we try to do the best that we possibly can. With that.
And we
Now,
thank you.
ladies and gentlemen, I want you to know if you've heard dogs barking. I have 2 dogs here, and I have to tell you, I'm telling you, my husband. I'm tell you some of my business. My husband was trying to feed the dogs while I'm on the podcast, and one of them was saying, "No, I'm not going." She was barking. "I'm not going because she's still in here talking, and I'm going to go down when I'm finished, when she's finished talking." So I'm just about finished with this hour. I have to say that My dogs have given me a little alarm. And my curiosity about um, how someone else views the business right now has been satisfied for the moment. It gives me a lot to think about. Gives me a lot to think about having a panel with people that you know, maybe Alicia, maybe you should create that to come in and talk about what you feel about what it is and what we can do to create events and programs that we can do to reach out to people coming into business, to make them feel more welcome, to make them feel more secure, to make them know that they're a part of this industry. There was a time when we saw a lot more of ourselves in this industry than we do now, but that doesn't mean that it can't happen. We stay hopeful. We stay always diligent and hopeful, and that's one of the things that I hope to happen in all of this. But I close now, because I have to say this has been very good for me as I get back on my regiment of asking all of you questions, and I try to be honest about my feeling and where I am now, and ask your indulgence of going off my schedule. But I hope to continue my schedule from now on, and that is something that I hope to always happen at this point. So with that, I started this with some of the music that I have had on my podcast, and that have become a little bit more of a signature than I ever thought that it would. And I will end it in a minute or two. If there's nothing else that anyone else has to say, I thank you all so very, very much. I'm going to end the recording. And if the attendees could stay for a minute and say a word to me after the recording is on, I'd appreciate that. But well, this is LYNNIE Godfrey, Straight No Chaser. I hope to be seeing you more than I've seen you in the last year. I hope to continue to find wonderful people who come and ask and have questions and make us think about where we are now, because we are gifted to be in this industry. We are all doing something that I think we have a calling for and a craft for. And that's why we stay in it so long. We don't retire. Most of us pass away being exactly what we are, whatever hyphenated thing that we do. That's not usually something in another workplace. So we're very blessed to be here. But it's a hard industry to survive in. I won't say that it's easy. It's not easy at all. But we hope that we can make it a little easier with some of these weekly or bi-weekly, sessions. And it makes it easier if you all come in and let me know what it is that I could possibly let it be known that you want something to talk about. So with that, I'm going to start hopefully my music, and then I will see you on the radio. And I hopefully that. Oh, hold on one second. I'm going to stop. I'm going to start it again, because what I did in the interim here is turn it down. So this is all very interesting when you talk about gadgetry and everything else that I have going for me. I still love doing this all myself, so don't even start. Don't. But I will put the links to either tonight or tomorrow for everyone to come so they can see this in its entirety. And with that, hopefully,
everybody's got the fever. This is something we all know. Fever isn't such a new thing. Fever started long ago.